The ground shook beneath my feet. I didn't know why. I didn't care. I just had to run. Something was following me, something that shouldn't exist. My heart raced as the air turned cold, like a knife slicing through my skin. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was nothing there. Nothing, or so I thought. Then, I saw it. The truth. The thing I had been searching for, hidden in plain sight. But it was too late. There was no turning back now. You won't believe what happened next. The broken seal. I never expected it to happen like this. One moment, I was just another traveler, seeking nothing but the next village for shelter. The next, I was holding a map, no, a cursed scroll, that would change everything. It wasn't a map to treasure or fame. It was something darker. My hands trembled as I unrolled it under the flickering firelight. The ink was faded, but the markings were unmistakable. The path it described was not meant to be followed. I had no choice. It was already in my mind, whispering, pulling me. I should have burned it then, but I didn't. That night, when the wind howled like wolves at our gates, I sealed my fate. My companions, 3 rugged souls from distant lands, saw the parchment. They begged me to ignore it, but they didn't understand. They couldn't. This was something ancient, lost in time. This road wasn't just a road. It was a trial. A test. And it demanded we follow it. By morning, the world outside had already changed. The silver eyes. The village was nothing special, just another dying settlement. Yet, when we arrived, something felt wrong. The air was thick with tension, and the streets were unnervingly quiet. A woman, no older than my youngest sister, stood at the village's entrance, her eyes glowing silver in the morning mist. She didn't speak, but the look in her eyes held me frozen. My companions didn't seem to notice her, but I couldn't look away. She was waiting for something. Someone. "I've been waiting for you," she finally whispered, and her voice felt like the crackle of old wood burning in a fire. "Waiting for us?" I asked, heart pounding, but her lips never moved as she spoke again. "The map you carry, it does not belong to you. You will not survive this journey." The words hung in the air. My companions began to stir. They didn't hear her. Or at least, they didn't believe her. But I couldn't shake the feeling. Whatever this road led to, it wasn't just about glory. The silent road. We left the village, though I had my doubts. The woman's warning echoed in my mind, but I ignored it, pushing forward. The path was narrow and winding, hemmed in by dense trees. Time seemed to distort here, like the world itself was slowing down. Every step felt heavier than the last. By nightfall, we were deep in the forest, and the map seemed to shift, like it was alive, guiding us forward. That's when it happened. The first cry split the silence, a scream that no human throat should have been able to produce. One of my companions, a man from the northern lands, dropped to his knees, clutching his chest. His eyes bulged, his skin turning pale, then, still. The scream stopped. He was gone. We never saw what took him. There was nothing. Nothing but the echoes of his voice in the wind. I don't know how much time passed after that. My remaining companions, shaken to their core, insisted we turn back, but I couldn't. I couldn't let go. The scroll, the road, the voices that haunted me, they demanded I finish this. As we trekked deeper, the air thickened. The path twisted impossibly, and the trees began to grow taller, darker, pressing in on us like they were closing us off from the world. Then, just ahead, we saw it. A massive stone gate. Ancient, worn by time, but still standing. There was no way around it. The map led here. The road ended here. The gate creaked open on its own, and we stepped through. What we saw inside. I can't explain it. I wouldn't even if I could. But something inside that place made me realize, this was never about finding glory. It was about facing what we had become. The truth unveiled. I stood before the altar. My companions had vanished, one by one, drawn into the shadows, their faces twisted in silent terror. And then it was just me. Alone. The scroll burned in my hands, and the flames rose higher, whispering my name. The road had led me here, but I didn't want to know what was waiting in the depths of this cursed place. What had I uncovered? And then, in a voice I didn't recognize, the final truth hit me: the road to glory has already claimed you. The journey was over. But not the story. Not the truth. Part 6, The Eternal Watcher. The ground beneath me trembled. I wasn't sure if it was the earth itself or something far older, something alive, that shook it. The altar before me had no markings, no inscriptions, just an unnatural, glowing stone that pulsed with a dark, rhythmic heartbeat. I reached out instinctively, my fingers grazing the stone's surface, and the world exploded in flashes of vision. The road I had followed, was it real? Was it part of a larger story, lost to time? The faces of ancient travelers filled my mind, warriors, kings, thieves, each one staring into the abyss with fear-stricken eyes. They had all come here before me, just as I had, lured by the promise of glory. A low voice echoed from the shadows, its tone both soothing and terrifying. "You are the last of many." Suddenly, a figure stepped from the darkness. A man, tall and silent, draped in ancient, tattered robes. His eyes were like pools of midnight, and when he spoke, his voice resonated in my bones. "You were chosen, just like them," he whispered, his gaze piercing mine. "But it will never be enough." A chill ran down my spine as I realized who he was. The Eternal Watcher. A legend. An ancient traveler who had once sought the same glory that now burned within me. But instead, he had been cursed to guard the road forever. "Why did you choose me?" I demanded, struggling to keep my voice steady. He smiled, a slow, chilling grin. "Because you were destined to walk this path. You didn't find the road found you." The unraveling. His words twisted in my mind like a snake coiling around my thoughts. I tried to turn away, but my body refused to move. The air around me thickened, pressing against my chest like invisible hands. I couldn't breathe. The road had led me here, and I was trapped in the very cycle I had hoped to escape. "Do you understand now?" The Watcher's voice cut through the haze of panic that clouded my mind. "The glory you seek is an illusion. A bait. A trap. You will never leave. None of us do." My hands shook violently as I clutched the map, the parchment now scorching hot in my grip. "I don't believe you," I gasped. "I came here for a reason. There must be something more." The Watcher's face softened, almost sorrowful. "No. You are the end. The final piece. After you, there will be no more. This story ends with you." A thunderous crack split the air, and the ground beneath my feet began to crumble. The stone altar cracked, splitting in half, and with it, the darkness closed in. The final choice. I didn't have time to think, to process. I had no choice. The Watcher stepped back, and the shadows stretched toward me like claws, dragging the earth itself into the abyss. I could hear my companions' screams echoing from the void, their faces flashing in my mind. But as I ran, every step more desperate than the last, the path began to change. The road shifted, the trees contorted, and the world seemed to bend. A portal, glowing with a sickly green light, appeared ahead. The map burned hotter in my hands, urging me toward it. It was the end of the road. The final test. I could escape. I could leave it all behind, go back to the world I knew. But the price would be far too high. My soul would be forfeit. The Watcher's voice, distant now, echoed in my ears, "Run, if you must. But know that nothing will ever be the same." The curse of glory. I stood at the threshold of the portal. The map was now nothing but ashes in my hands. The last traveler had made their choice. And I would make mine. But as I crossed into the light, I realized the truth. There was no escape. The road was never meant to be walked. And for those who dared, for those who dreamed of glory, the road would always lead to the same end. There would be no stories left to tell. No one to remember the names of those who had walked before me. The ancient travelers had all vanished, lost to time, and now, I too would fade into nothing. But the question remained, was I really ready to let it end? And would anyone ever uncover the secrets that had been buried so long ago? The forgotten legacy. I stepped through the portal, but instead of finding myself in the darkness I'd expected, I was free. For a moment, the world around me was still, too still. The air was different, lighter, almost peaceful. No more shadows, no more whispers. Just the quiet hum of something ancient and profound. The land before me stretched endlessly, but it was a land I had never seen before, a place untouched by time. Then, it hit me. The road, the one that had led me here, that had promised glory, was not a path forward, but a circle. A trap. Not a curse to be broken, but a cycle to be continued. I was not the end, I was just another traveler, just like all the others. Every soul that had walked this road had done so for a reason, and every one of them had ended just as I would. A fleeting moment of peace before the inevitable return. But this place, this place was different. I wasn't alone. In the distance, I saw them. The travelers who had come before me. They weren't shadows anymore. They were real. And they were waiting. Waiting for me to make my choice. You found the truth, one of them said, his voice both familiar and foreign. But the truth, my friend, is that it was never about glory. Never about fame. It was always about us. He stepped forward, and for the first time, I saw his face clearly. It was mine. And then it all became clear. Every single one of us, every lost soul, every person who had crossed this road, we were not just wanderers. We were reflections. Each traveler was the ghost of the one who came before, doomed to repeat their steps until the end of time, until the road was finally forgotten by all but the few who still dared to walk it. You've already made your choice, the figure said, his voice now blending with the wind. You came here for something, but you'll stay for something else. Forever. And as the final words hung in the air, the truth dawned on me, glory was never the goal. The road was not about triumph, but about remembrance. It was about those who dared to follow, those who sought more than the world had to offer, only to find themselves lost within it. The question wasn't whether I would return to my life, to the land I knew, but whether anyone would ever remember my name. Whether any of us would. And then, for the first time, I understood the true cost of glory. It wasn't fame. It wasn't riches. It wasn't the victories we longed for. It was the price of being forgotten. And now, as I stood in the shadow of a road that would never end, I realized that perhaps the greatest fate of all was not to be lost, but to be remembered, forever. But would anyone hear our story? Would anyone, ever, know the truth of the ancient travelers? The answer was simple. No one would ever know. And yet, in the silence that followed, I could hear the echoes of every traveler who had ever passed before me. And for the first time, I felt my soul align with theirs. The road to glory wasn't about reaching the end. It was about finding peace in the journey, and knowing, in the deepest part of yourself, that maybe the true glory is in being forgotten.